Listen, imagine a guy. He's got no college degree, his only real asset, a pair of hands covered in engine oil and a tiny garage. His factory gets wiped off the face of the earth twice, first by firebombs, then by a massive earthquake. And when he finally decides to start making cars, his own government officially tells him, "Look, kid, stay out of this. We don't need another car brand." Any normal person would have given up right then and gone to work a 9 to 5. Not this guy. This is Soichiro Honda, a man who truly hated dry theorists, loved the roar of an engine, and proved to the entire world that a diploma is just a piece of paper if you've got a crazy amount of passion and a wrench in your hand. Today, we're breaking down the history of Honda, but this isn't going to be a boring list of dates from Wikipedia. This is a story about how to build an empire on nothing but mistakes and pure stubbornness. Let's go. It all started in 1906 in a tiny Japanese village. Soichiro's father was a simple blacksmith. You know the vibe, the smell of coal, the clanging of iron, sparks flying everywhere. Instead of toys, little Honda had the bicycles his father brought in for repair. But the real click in his head happened when a car drove into their remote village for the very first time. It was the legendary Ford Model T. Soichiro remembered that moment for the rest of his life. He didn't just see a machine, he ran after it, pressed his nose to the ground where a drop of oil had fallen, and greedily inhaled the scent. To him, it was better than the most expensive perfume. That was the moment he swore to himself, "I'm gonna build one of these." At 15, he did something most teens today wouldn't dream of. He dropped out of school and moved to Tokyo. No connections, not a penny in his pocket, just heading toward the world of mechanics. You have to admit, there's something both romantic and insane about that. His parents weren't thrilled, obviously, but how do you stop someone who has already smelled their dream? So Soichiro is in Tokyo. Do you think he went to apply to a prestigious university? Not a chance. He got a job as an apprentice in an auto repair shop. For 6 years, he literally lived among spare parts and often slept right on the garage floor. Imagine a modern student in those conditions. But for him, this was his personal Harvard. At 22, he returns to his hometown as a real pro. His first hit? Metal wheel spokes. Back then, everyone used wooden ones that were constantly rotting or breaking, but Honda came up with steel ones. Boom, his first patent and his first serious money. He goes even further. He starts a company called Tokai Seiki, making piston rings, and even lands a contract with Toyota. You'd think, this is it, success. But then, Soichiro gets a massive reality check. Out of his first batch of 50 rings, Toyota accepts exactly 3. The rest were junk. Anyone else would have said, "Well, I guess I'm not cut out for this. Let me go into management." But Soichiro didn't head to the library for theory. He went to his competitors' factories to see with his own eyes how they cast their metal. There's your first lesson from Honda. Real experience is worth 1,000 textbooks. But fate decided to really test his limits. World War II breaks out. Soichiro's factory is first blown to bits by air raids, and whatever was left was finished off by the massive 1945 earthquake. Imagine the state of a man seeing everything he built for years turned into a pile of smoking rubble. Soichiro sells the remains of his equipment to Toyota for peanuts. And you know what he does next? Does he go on a bender? Well, almost. He buys a huge barrel of alcohol, puts it in his garden, and for a whole year, he just makes homemade booze, relaxes, and hangs out with friends. A gap year, if you will. But a genius can't stay idle for long. In 1946, he accidentally stumbles upon a tiny engine from an old military radio generator. Japan was struggling with fuel and public transport back then. People were sweating on bicycles for miles. Soichiro looked at a bike, looked at the motor, and thought, why not? He strapped the engine to the frame, used a regular hot water bottle as a gas tank, and voila! The first Honda moped was born. It was cheap, it worked, and it was exactly what a surviving country needed.
Do you know the secret behind most successful companies? It's usually a union of two people, one crazy genius who lives for the product, and a cold-blooded strategist who knows how to sell it. For Soichiro, that man was Takeo Fujisawa. They met in 1949, and it was instant chemistry. Soichiro said, "I want to make the best engines in the world." Fujisawa replied, "Okay, and I'll make sure you always have the money to do it." They even made a pact. Fujisawa would never step foot on the shop floor, and Honda would never touch the accounting books. Perfect. Their first joint project was a motorcycle with a symbolic name, Dream. But the road to that dream was rough. At one point, they bought incredibly expensive equipment from Europe and the US, spent all their cash, and were on the brink of bankruptcy. Banks wouldn't give them loans. You know how they escaped? Fujisawa wrote a personal letter to 5,000 bicycle shop owners across Japan. "Guys, let's revive the country together. We need dealers." And it worked. Regular shop owners believed in the brand, and the money started pouring in. But the real global explosion happened in 1958. Soichiro and Takeo decided to create transport for everyone, not for cool bikers in leather jackets, but for students, housewives, and noodle delivery guys. That's how the Honda Super Cub was born. Fujisawa set the task: make it so you can ride it with one hand because the delivery guy needs to hold a tray of food in the other. Honda did it. Low frame, automatic clutch, legendary reliability. In their US ad campaign, they used the slogan, "You meet the nicest people on a Honda." It was a stroke of genius. The motorcycle stopped being a tough guy toy, and it became part of the family. To date, over 100 million Super Cubs have been sold. It is the most mass-produced vehicle in human history, more than the legendary Volkswagen Beetle. Can you imagine that scale? But for Soichiro, it wasn't enough. He was being called by four wheels and the roar of the crowds. In the early 60s, Soichiro decided, enough with two wheels, it's time to make cars. And that's where it got interesting. Japan's Ministry of Industry literally fought him. They said, "Listen, Honda, we already have Toyota and Nissan. We don't need a third player. You'll just mess everything up. Sit down and keep making your mopeds." Any other guy would have nodded politely and backed off, but not Soichiro. He simply ignored the officials. To prove his engines were the best, he went all in and entered a team into Formula One. Imagine, a Japanese company that hadn't even released a single mass-market passenger car yet was jumping into the big leagues of racing against Ferrari and Lotus. Everyone laughed, but at the 1965 Mexican Grand Prix, the laughing stopped. A Honda pilot crossed the finish line first. It was a sensation. The whole world realized that Honda wasn't just about noodle delivery, it was about high-end tech and speed. That's how Soichiro earned the right to make cars. His motto was simple: if you're first in racing, you're first everywhere. You know, Soichiro didn't look like your typical Japanese boss in a stiff suit. He loved bright red shirts. In the Japan of that era, that was practically a protest. Everyone wore gray or black. But he said, "Why should I blend in with the crowd? I want my employees to see me from a mile away." He genuinely hated theorists with degrees from prestigious universities. If a college grad came to him and started acting smart, he might just send him to mop floors or take apart an old engine. His logic was ironclad. A diploma is a document about what they taught you in the past. I need to know what you can do for the future with your own hands. There's even a funny story. When he was invited to meet the emperor, Soichiro wanted to go in his usual work jacket. His assistants almost fainted. Fujisawa basically had to force him into a tailcoat. He grumbled that these penguin clothes kept him from thinking. He remained a simple mechanic until the day he died, the kind of guy who would crawl under a car hood with his workers at any moment. Imagine 1973. A massive global oil crisis hits. Gas prices go through the roof. Americans used to giant land yachts with the appetite of a dragon are in a panic. And then a tiny, unassuming Honda Civic enters the scene. At first, everyone laughed. What is this shoebox on wheels? But Honda used a brilliant invention there, the CVCC engine. The trick was that it was so eco-friendly and efficient, it didn't even need an expensive catalytic converter to meet strict US standards. Engineers from General Motors sneered back then, saying that kind of engine was only good for lawnmowers. You know what Soichiro did? He bought a massive Chevrolet Impala, shipped it to Japan, installed his system in it, and sent it back to the States for testing. The car passed perfectly. It was an epic checkmate to the entire American auto industry. From that moment, the Honda Civic became a symbol of a smart choice, and the Japanese company found a permanent home in garages worldwide. Later came the Accord, then the premium Acura, and that was it. Honda became a giant that could no longer be ignored. In 1973, on the company's 25th anniversary, Soichiro and his loyal partner Fujisawa did something that shocked everyone. They retired at the same time. Soichiro said, "The company should be run by the young. There's no room for old men here." He didn't want to sit on the throne until old age and get in the way of progress. But he didn't just sit on the couch.
He flew helicopters, he was the pilot by the way, studied UFOs, and worked on road safety foundations. When he passed away in 1991, the world said goodbye not just to a businessman, but to the last of the great mechanics. Today, Honda is more than just cars. It's Honda jet planes, which Soichiro dreamed of since childhood, it's Osimo humanoid robots, it's lawnmowers and boat engines. If it moves and roars, it's a Honda. Soichiro Honda once said something legendary. "Many see my success, but I see the 99% of my failures that the success is built on." He proved that it doesn't matter if you have a Harvard degree or if you're just a kid from a blacksmith shop. All that matters is whether you're ready to fail, get back up, and turn the wrenches again on the way to your dream. So, what do you think? What matters more today, a university degree or that kind of insane stubbornness and hands-on practice? Let's talk in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe if the story of the engineer without a diploma inspired you. See you in the next one.